Hey, what is going on, everybody? Jacob here, and on today's vlog, we're going to be reviewing the market update numbers for Durham region as of May 2019. Now, as always, please keep in mind, this is a general overview for all of Durham region. Every single city, as well as every single neighborhood within those cities are going to have varying numbers. So, if you've ever got any questions, please never hesitate to reach out. Now, having said that, let's jump right into the numbers. Now, the month of May, we actually saw a fairly significant increase in activity across the board. Just keep in mind when we're comparing ourselves to May 2018, we were at that point less than 12 months away from the market taking a complete dive off a cliff. Property values had come down 20%. Buyer and seller confidence was at an all-time low. And everyone was just kind of waiting on the sidelines to see how things were going to play out. So yes, we've seen an uptick, but it's an uptick compared to that point in time. So now when we look at the total number of listings that came to market, we saw an increase of about 6.5% in Durham region. Ajax was the leader of the pack with almost 20% more listings this May than 12 months ago. Funnily enough, Oshawa was in last place with a decrease of 3.5%, less listings this year than we did last year. So now when we look at the total number of sales, we saw an increase of about 36% more sales this month than we did 12 months ago. This shows that buyer confidence is returning. People who have been waiting on the sidelines have realized, okay, property values have stabilized and are now actually starting to increase month of month. Might be a good time to get into the real estate market. Now, Ajax and Whitby are at the front lines with an increase of 53 and 50%, and Clarington's lagging behind with only a 12.5% increase with total number of sales. So now when we look at the average sales price, which let's all be honest with each other, that's the most important number people want to keep an eye on. We've seen an increase of property values about 4.2% from a year ago. The average sales price in Durham region is at $622,000, which is an increase from $597,000 a year ago. Funnily enough, Pickering is still at the front line with an average sales price of $708,000. However, they've seen a drastic decrease from a year ago where their average sales price was around $730,000. So some of the other numbers we like to take into consideration when reviewing any market is the months of inventory. So right now we sit at 2. What does months of inventory mean? If we were to stop listing today but kept selling at the current rate, how long would it take you to run out of inventory? Anything under 4 months is a seller's market, 4 to 6 is a balanced market, and 6 and above is a buyer's market. So we are nowhere near a buyer's market right now, you guys. Ajax is actually the hottest market with a months of inventory of only 1.4, and Clarington's lagging behind at around 2.3, but it's still, again, a seller's market. So this is what's actually attributed to the days on market being really low. The average days on market for Durham region is 19. So that means it's taking the average person less than 3 weeks to sell their homes. Keep in mind, this is the average. There's quite a few homes selling with under a week, and there's quite a few homes sitting there that are going to be a little bit higher than that number. Now, when we look at the sales to new listings ratio, we're sitting at around 49% for Durham region. That means that almost half of all the listings coming to market are selling. It is a seller's market, but even in a seller's market, that also means that 51% of sellers or people who are listing their homes are actually not selling. That's a fairly significant number. That means at least 1 out of every 2 people is listing their home, putting it on the market, and all they're doing is sitting and helping the other listing across the street from them sell. So buyers, if you are thinking about buying a home in this market, the number one thing you need to do is hire a professional to help you with your search. It drives me absolutely crazy when I see people who are calling real estate agents directly because they think that they're going to get a better deal dealing with that particular agent. So what I mean by that is, all the time I list a new property, I get a phone call or a message from somebody saying, hey, please, I'd like more information on your property at 123 Streetway. We'll call them up and I'll start asking them questions, and I'll say, are you being represented by a real estate agent right now? And they say, no. What I'm doing is I'm calling each agent specifically for each property. And if I like that property the most and I put an offer in, I'm going to go with the listing agent. You are shooting yourself in the foot if that's the way you're actually going about your search. You can buy real estate and sell real estate without the help of a real estate agent. Just because you can represent yourself does not mean you should. In the long run, you're going to probably hinder yourself, you're going to hurt yourself, and you're going to leave a lot of money on the table. A professional agent knows what they're looking for. They're going to be ahead of the curve. They might know real estate agents in the business that they talk to all the time, so they're going to be aware of what listings are coming up. Just the other day, I gave another real estate agent a heads up of an upcoming listing we've got coming up, and they're going to be first in line for when that property comes to market. These are things that agents do that are invaluable to your home search. A lot of people have this misconception that if they use the listing agent on a purchase, they're going to save themselves some money. At the end of the day, the listing agent has signed a contract with the seller of the property. Their goal and obligation is to sell that property for the most amount of money in the shortest amount of time possible. When you're signing on with them, all you're doing is you're going to give the agent a little bit less work to do, and they're going to double their commission. All right. You are not going to be reaping the benefits of saving from using the same agent on both sides. I personally would never feel comfortable using a lawyer to represent me who's also representing the other side. And I don't think that's even legally possible, but you get my point. I really believe you should be interviewing real estate agents, talk to them, and find one that you feel comfortable with to actually help you. So many people are scared to sign a buyer representation agreement, but yet contract is just explaining the working relationship you have, and it's also establishing the obligations that real estate agent has to you. All right, so you do want to sign that contract. It's just you want to sign it with somebody that you feel comfortable with, who's going to be able to guide you through the entire search. So just like how you interview real estate agents when you're selling a home, you should be interviewing real estate agents when you're buying a home. Get a couple references or referrals from friends and family, but then also reach out to a couple people that you talk to and see who you feel the most comfortable with. But you should, at the end of the day, hire somebody that is going to be able to understand your circumstances and is going to work in your best interest 100%. So when it comes to selling your house in this market, guys, things are still moving fairly quickly. You have to understand that it really depends on what your price point is, what demographic, and what type of property you're selling. You may have a home that is worth $900,000, so don't expect that to sell in 7 to 10 days because that is an area or a price point that is a little bit more slower moving. You should be working with your real estate agent who's going to explain all this to you to let you understand what's happening to your certain type of market. So for example, if you're under the $500,000 mark in Oshawa, Bowmanville, and these areas, you're going to get quite a bit of activity and it should sell fairly quickly. As a real estate agent, yes, we are going to be doing what we can to make sure the sale is as seamless as possible, but I'm not forcing the traffic to come. The traffic is there because that's what the market dictates. There's a lot of buyers out there for this price point. On the flip side, if you have a home that's $900,000 or $1 million, you're not going to get a lot of activity and walk through traffic just because these segments of the market have slowed down drastically. Now, you're also going to be taking a very close eye as to what's happening with this property and other types of homes that you're competing against, because if there's not a lot of activity and nothing else is moving, then you understand, okay, it's a slower moving segment. I wouldn't do a price reduction right away. But if you're noticing that the other homes in the area that your competition or newer homes are coming up and they're selling before you, that might be the market telling you that, hey, the market deems your property to be a little bit too overpriced because there's other things with better value that they're moving forward towards. Okay, so it's very important to work closely with your real estate agent for them to explain this to you, to kind of give you an idea of what kind of market you're dealing with. But even in Durham region, there are so many different pockets of activity taking place. You really have to get a good understanding of what's happening in this type of property demographic before you understand how you're going to price it, what your marketing strategy is going to be, and how you're going to approach it overall. Now, I posted about investing in real estate on Instagram the other day, and I had a huge response. It is obviously a topic that a lot of people have interest in, so we are going to be producing a lot more content talking about investing in real estate. Now, investing in real estate is a very general and broad statement. There are a variety of ways that you can invest in real estate. Number one, home ownership is the most basic form of investing in real estate. If you believed your property was going to be worth less in the next 5 years, you probably wouldn't buy real estate. You're buying it because you're expecting the property values to increase over the next few years. So the most general version of investing in real estate is owning your own home. You're going to be paying down the mortgage, property values should be increasing over time, and that's where you're going to really be making a return on your investment. Now, going a little bit deeper into that, you can get into what they're calling these days house hacking, but really all it is you're renting out the basement, or you can live in the basement and rent out upstairs, but you're going to generate some sort of income from the property you're living in. It's a great way to pay down your mortgage and to help you handle some of the costs associated with home ownership. Now, if you want to go a little bit deeper into it, you can start owning properties that you don't necessarily live in. You can make that a single family home, duplex, a triplex. Anything over a 4-unit rental is actually deemed commercial by most banks. I wouldn't necessarily recommend that to anybody who's just thinking about getting into real estate. Now, they all have their pros and cons. Single family detached, the pro is it's a lot cheaper to get into, but the con is your entire investment is contingent on the payment of rent from one tenant. So if the tenant stops paying rent or it's vacant and you haven't found a renter yet, you're going to eat those costs for the next little while. On the flip side, when you look at duplexes and triplexes, it's going to be a little bit more expensive for you to get involved in it. However, if one unit is vacant, you're still going to be generating income from the other one. So there are pros and cons, but you really have to talk to your real estate agent and figure out what your goals are and what your expectations are in real estate investing. I highly recommend everyone to think about it. I think real estate investing is a phenomenal way to grow passive long-term wealth. Be cautious, and this I think is true with anything, but be cautious of people who are promising you these exorbitant returns on investments and telling you that there's absolutely no risk involved. Anything that is going to offer you some sort of reward is going to have inherent risk. If you want something that is absolutely zero risk, you can put your money into T-bills in a 98-day account with the banks, and you're going to get 0.01% return on investment, but at least your investment was safe. But if you actually want your money to work for you and in the long run, you should really consider real estate investing as an opportunity. Now, also understand that there's quite a few drawbacks with real estate investing. There's a lot of work and effort that goes into it. A lot of things can go wrong, but you have to acknowledge that before you go into it. The one thing I just tell people to stay away from is flips. Unless you have your own truck with your tools and you're a handy person, you've got connections with all the trades, I highly recommend people to stay away from flips because don't expect a lot of money in the short term. Flips can be extremely risky. There's a huge cost associated with it because buying and selling real estate is a very expensive proposition. So that's going to eat into your profit margins right there. And you have to just look into how much work do you actually expect to put into it. And even flips, I actually recommend buying properties that need a lot of work, but holding on to them and renting them out. I don't like holding on to real estate less than a year. Whenever I look into investing in real estate, or my play is usually looking minimum 3 to 5 years out, if not 10 and more. All right, time for some predictions. Everyone's got an idea of what's going to happen with the real estate market, but people have to always also mention that at the end of the day, none of us know. All big five banks have very smart people with a lot of data available to them, and even they can't agree on what's going to happen on a Canada-wide level. Now, when I'm talking about Durham region, I think we're a very enviable position. We're a nice little pocket, so close to the GTA, and we're so undervalued compared to all the different areas around us. Anywhere to the west and north of the GTA is already extremely expensive, and people are noticing that the value is kind of to head out east. 10, 20 years ago, when I moved to Oshawa from Scarborough 20 years ago, it was a completely different world. Oshawa especially had a huge stigma, but which it is shedding over the last little while. And there's been a lot of investments from not only government sectors, but private sectors in Durham region. You've got the 407 expansion, the GO train. You've got a lot of retail shops opening up shop over here, which means that they're seeing the potential of what's going to happen in Durham region. A lot of people, when they actually look at the dollars and cents, are seeing that the value in Durham region can't be competed with anywhere else. So what do I think is going to happen in the near future? Obviously, there's a million and one variables and anything can happen, but I do believe that we will eventually see a $700,000 average sales price in Durham. And the reason for that is because we are so undervalued. The biggest drivers of property growth are employment as well as population growth. So we are so close to the GTA that we get to bask in the warmth of Toronto. Guys, Toronto is one of the fastest growing cities in all of the world, definitely, especially in Canada. We have almost 80,000 people moving to Toronto every single year. So that's Pickering just pouring into the GTA. Now, when it comes time to buy, where are they going to go? Most people can't afford the city. They look to the west, they look to the north, and then when they compare and they see, oh wow, I can live in Durham region for under $600,000 and I'm still going to be within commuting distance to my job in the city, it's a very easy choice to make. So we are going to go through our ups and downs, but I do believe in the next 5 to 10 year outlook, Durham region has a very, very bright future. So that's it for today, you guys. I hope you enjoyed that. If you have any questions or comments, please never hesitate to reach out. All my contact information is listed below. Make sure you follow us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. We're out there just putting the content. I really hope you enjoyed that. And until next time, have a good one and go Raps go.